Hey guys, welcome, my name is Leyzar and I'm a small-time content creator for Warframe. I primarily do YouTube vids, as you probably could tell since this is a YouTube vid, but also I do Twitch live streams and other stuff as well. I've been playing Warframe ever since 2018, I've got about 3 years something in the game total and a little bit over 6,200 hours. That said, today I want to touch on the brand new content in the Sisters of Parvos update. We're going to talk about the Warframe, we're going to talk about the gun buffs, we're going to talk about the melee nerfs, we're going to talk about the actual Sisters of Parvos and the Lich system and so on and so forth. What I do ask you to bear in mind, I'm coming off about a 6-hour long live stream where we played the brand new content, me together with my community, and we had a good time overall. That said though, I don't have a script, so I'm probably gonna be even more awkward than usual, and you should treat this as a first impression. That said, let's hop into Yareli. What is she good for, and what is she not good for, and is she worth farming? That last question is pretty simple to answer. If you want a quirky, new, gimmicky Warframe, yes. If you want something viable in endgame and ultra powerful and all whatnot, no, definitely not. Let's start off with her first ability, which from my point of view is also her most powerful and most usable ability. You launch 3 frontal water balls that will be locking onto enemies, and then it's gonna hoist them up into the air, applying crowd control. Now, this form of crowd control is actually a whole lot more powerful than the average kind, let's say, simply because this applies to mini bosses and to bosses. What are mini bosses? You know, the thralls that you fight with your Kuva Liches and your actual Kuva Liches, or the little doggies that help the Sisters of Parvos that do pack one serious punch. This will apply to them as well. Keep in mind that applying crowd control over crowd control to these mini bosses has a form of diminishing returns, so do bear that one in mind. The second ability is Marolina, and perhaps this one is the most polarizing ability of all. Again, I played a couple of hours, and here's the gist of it. If you hate K-Drive, you're gonna hate this bloody thing as well. There's just simply no buts about it. When trying to maneuver through tight corridors and small tile sets, you're gonna hate this Marolina business. And you might say, okay, well, I'm just not gonna activate it or replace it with the helmet system. Unfortunately, you can't really do that all that much because Yareli's survivability is dependent 100% on Marolina. The developer is aware of this, that without Marolina, the Warframe simply does not survive, which is why they currently buffed the armor from 60 or 65 that she had initially. Now it's up to 100. That was done in the first hotfix. When you're playing in more open areas, and I'm not talking about open worlds because then you can just go, you know, Arcwing or your normal K-Drive. When you have more permissive tile sets, such as the new Corpus one, the new Corpus one, Gas City and all whatnot, this can actually become a whole lot of fun, and you can use your secondary weapon. Her secondary weapon, the Compressa, I believe it's called, is actually quite nice, and stop being mean, it's not a Stug, it's a lot more powerful and more interesting than the Stug, and of course I will bring you guys a full and detailed review on it. My point is, you want to survive in higher level content, I think something past 60, 70, 100-ish, then you gotta go with Marolina because this will increase your survivability by a truck ton. You get a whole lot more effective HP, so do bear that one in mind. Her third ability, believe it or not, is her most offensively powerful ability. This one will spawn these water blades around you, and I think they're called aqua blades because they're water blades. Now these things apply slash to your targets. Look at that. A whole lot of slash really quick. Take a look at the amount of procs on this target. 14, 15. Take a look at that. All you need at this point to completely annihilate a high level target is just a little bit of AoE vital. And you can do that with the Vocal Phylon from David. So do bear that one in mind. The problem with this ability is the following, the range. The range is an issue, and how it works. Now these targets are big, so even if I hug them, they're still gonna be targeted by those blades. But when you're dealing with small targets, if they come in between you and the blades, at least initially in my initial testing, they weren't really all that effective. It might still be a little bit buggy, so do bear that one in mind. And you're gonna say something like, "Psha, Leyzar, just at range." Oh yes, I'm glad you said that. Problem is that range for her for the ability Aqua Blades does not count. Nah, range unfortunately does nothing, but it is a way. If you want to build her for damage, you want to focus on Aqua Blades and use a weapon that can apply AoV, vital damage. And that brings us to her fourth ability, Riptide. Now Riptide is Super Flash. I love Super Flash. Do you love? Look at that. Boom, baby, beautiful. And you can ragdoll enemies around, and you can just grab them from the air and ragdoll them around. It's absolutely sensational. from a subjective visual point of view. When it comes to power, unfortunately, it simply does not have much of any. It's gonna do just fine against lower level enemies, level 30, 40, 50, something like that, but when it comes to heavily armored, high level targets such as these, as you can see, it doesn't do a whole lot of anything. Now it does deal more damage the more enemies you have clumped up, but even then, it's simply not all that powerful. So what remains if it's not really all that powerful? The crowd control aspect. You have your 1 ability for crowd control and you have your 4 ability. Keep in mind that her 4 ability will not be applying to bosses. So there is that, keep that in mind. Now the synergy between these abilities I think is fairly obvious. Let me spawn a couple of more targets. And by the way, I'm running like 250 power strength right now, so you can see that it actually doesn't really deal a whole lot. You're on Merlina, you're with your secondary weapon that can apply vital, like so, pretty simple and straightforward. And you can apply crowd control with your 1 ability, like that, if you don't want to knock them all over the place. And of course, your aqua blades up. And this is basically how you can play. And just position yourself within range of these targets. You see the problem with something like this, right? Well, the problem would be that what's stopping me from just going melee? What's stopping me from completely annihilating whatever the hell stands before me, because melee at the end of the day is 264.5 times more powerful. Nothing. Essentially, Yareli is a flavor frame. If you want to try something new, if you want to try the kawaii Warframe, the cutesy Warframe, if you want to go K-Drive and normal missions and try this and that for the novelty, essentially, then definitely go for Yareli. If you're looking for the most efficient, most powerful, and not clunky Warframe in the game, this wouldn't be it. Now I want to touch a little bit on the melee nerfs. A lot of you guys were concerned. I am happy to report that my initial impression, which was based on math, was true. Melee hasn't really been nerfed all that bad. Honestly, the melee nerfs are negligible for the most part. There is no need to fret. You can still cut through heavily armored targets like a hot knife through butter. Yes, it did receive a nerf, but it wasn't a significant nerf, so don't worry about it. Melee is, without a single doubt, still king. Okay, especially when it comes to high level targets. So that's good. Well, the not so good part from my point of view is that the fact that all you gotta do is still press 1 button and you go for everything. That hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. 1 button is all you need. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on your own perspective. I wish we could get combos back that actually packed a punch and did something really impressive instead of just smashing a single button. But anyway, moving on to the gun buffs. There are 9 galvanized mods and each of them will cost you 20 vital essence, so therefore you need 180 for the whole set. Unfortunately, it doesn't really end there because each of them will have to be maxed out. So you're looking at 32,000 endo and about 1.2 million credits a pop to max them out. Now, if you're a veteran like me, that's not a concern because we got Anasas coming out the derriere and credits we have nothing to do with. So it was easy for me to buy all the 9 mods and fully max them out. But that's not gonna be the case for a non-veteran player. Today I want to give you the example of Galvanized Diffusion. The normal version of Battle Diffusion has 120 multi-shot, 120%. The Galvanized version has just a little bit less, 110 instead of 120, but the Galvanized portion is an on-kill effect, 30% multi-shot for 20 seconds, stacking up 4 times. Keep in mind it's gonna be one or the other, you cannot have both at the same time. I want to show you how these stacks actually apply and how they work so you can understand how hard or easy it will be to keep them up. So we're going to be spawning in Corrupted Heavy Goons, level 30, and just going to get a couple of quick kills. I want you guys to look at my buff bar in the upper right hand portion of the screen. I'm on 2, going to 3, and finally to 4. It's the little square thing. As you can see, I got X4 and the time is ticking down from 20 seconds. Now, if I was to get an additional kill right now, I'm gonna get a full refresh on that duration. So it's still gonna be X4, but up to the initial or the maximum 20 seconds. Now, if there's nothing to kill or you have too much of a beefy target to kill it in time, it's dropping down to X3 and you're still getting 20 seconds at X3. During this time, if you get a kill, you're gonna go back to X4, you saw that in the full 20 seconds. So it's very permissive when it comes to the actual duration of these buffs. They will drop gradually and each and every single level will get you that 20 seconds to get one additional kill. And these things will make a tremendous difference when it comes to normal average everyday content. I'm talking about low level. I'm talking about level 50, 60, 70s, 100, 150, something like that. They are definitely gonna pack a punch. But I do believe that the point of the Galvanized mods, together with the Merciless Arcanes, which basically kind of have the same on-kill effect, not basically, have the same on-kill effect as a trigger, was to buff range weapons so that we can use them viably in Steel Path. Kind of get them somewhere where melee is right now. And unfortunately, that is simply not the case, because when you're getting to high level content, level 1000, 2000, 3000, and so on, the few of us that actually do that from time to time, these mods can actually be weaker than the normal versions, because when you're fighting a beefy target, your stacks might fall off and it's going to be very difficult to actually keep them up. And again, in order for a Galvanized mod to actually be better than the normal counterpart, it needs at least one stack. Case in point, the brand new content, the Sisters of Parvos. Everybody right now is running after the brand new weapons because they are amazing, and I'm gonna bring you guys full and detailed guides on all of them, of course, as per usual. When you're fighting a higher rank sister, for example, let's say rank 4, and her minion, the little doggy that keeps getting in the way, it's gonna be very, very difficult, if not impossible, to keep up at least a single stack. There might or might not be ads around, and in my case, in the 5-6 hours that I played, it was very difficult for me to justify these Galvanized mods instead of the normal version, because you couldn't get a kill within 20 seconds to actually keep one up. Now, of course, my friends, this might change in time, and these are just my impressions, but for now, I do not believe that the gun buff fixed what it set out to do. Not only that, I also believe that Digital Extremes is a very competent developer, and I never assume that they don't understand these things, so I'm not entirely sure if they actually wanted to make guns viable for Steel Path. And again, if you want to be safe, just go melee. Melee is still numero uno, no doubts about it. As for the gun buff, no. That said, let's touch on the Sisters of Parvos. Did you guys get your first sister? I did, and I got this fantastic new weapons. It's called the Tenant Envoy. Envoy. I think the correct pronunciation might be Envoy. And this thing is just bloody insane, man. It's a fully brand new weapon. It's not a variant. I was trying to get the Plasmor, and I got this one. And I want to talk to you about my experience chasing these sisters. Currently, there are a couple of bugs, because it should be mentioned. There are a couple of bugs when it comes to spawning these sisters. Sometimes they spawn and sometimes they do not, so do bear that one in mind. The Murmur farm is a lot more comfortable than it used to be, especially considering the all unlockable Murmur that can basically take the form of whatever you need in that case. So you can get through the Murmur farm a whole lot faster. Unfortunately, the whole farm to actually get a sister completed, either vanquished or turned to your side, takes longer simply because they're forcing Railjack. No longer when you got all the free Murmurs do you defeat your Lich, or in this case your sister. There's one additional mission where you gotta go to Railjack and do a Railjack mission and then defeat her there as well. So it adds a whole lot of time to the farm. Is it worth it or not? I can answer that question for you. But the Lich system, or in our case the Sisters of Parvos system, feels a whole lot more grown up, matured, and a whole lot more streamlined overall than what we had initially with the Kuva Liches, which, to be honest, if I remember correctly, was a nightmare full of bugs. Again, there are some bugs, but nothing out of the ordinary for Warframe, that is. And I do believe, my friends, that is pretty much it. We touched on Yareli, we touched on the Sisters of Parvos. The new guns are fairly interesting. Some of them have really, really cool mechanics, and I can't wait to bring you guys a whole lot more content on them. The ephemeras have a much higher chance to drop. I've seen almost all my friends get ephemeras. Take a look at the one on my back. That's not a Siandana, on the shoulders, on the legs as well. That's the Toxin ephemera. So happy farming, and I hope you guys enjoy the brand new content. As for me, I'm enjoying it so far. I just can't help but feel disappointed in the gun buff, and I do not believe this will change anything in the long run. So what was the point? More farming, more mods, or essentially mostly the same result? Keep in mind, these again are preliminary conclusions, and I could definitely be wrong. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think about the Sisters of Parvos update? As always, my name has been Leyzar. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. And if you've got any sorts of feedback for me, by all means, my friends, let me know in the comment section down below. Until next time, my friends, bye-bye.